Tonight, AEW delivered its best episode of Dynamite all year. That was the best AEW show of 2024. I know the year is young, but there have been some very questionable episodes of Dynamite. It was a return to form tonight, top to bottom, an excellent episode. We were 90 minutes into tonight's episode, and I honestly, until I looked at the clock, it didn't feel like it was 9:30. So the fact that the show passed by that quickly was a very good sign. And history was made tonight, because in the main event of tonight's show, we had Sting and Darby Allin, undefeated in AEW as a tag team, challenging for the AEW World Tag Team titles. And as Excalibur mentioned at the end of the show tonight when the match was over, Sting stood tall, holding the 25th championship that he has won in his career. Sting and Darby Allin are the brand new AEW World Tag Team Champions. They did not wait for his retirement match at Revolution. They won the titles tonight, fair and square, in a tornado tag match from Ricky Starks and Big Bill. And quite possibly, I would even say very likely, the final time that we are going to see Sting and Darby Allin wrestling together as a team on television. Now, there is still a month to go until Revolution, actually a little less than a month to go, until Sting's retirement match, but tonight may well have been the final match we see on free TV. And very likely, I say very likely, it is all but guaranteed that this will be the final time we see Sting winning a championship of any kind in his career. And that went down here tonight on this show. When that match was over, the celebration did not last very long, because the Young Bucks attacked, they laid them out. It was actually a pretty brutal beatdown angle. And I love the visual of the Bucks coming out there wearing their all-white suits. Darby Allin gets busted open, and the blood is just smeared all over the white suits. They lay a beatdown on Sting, they lay a beatdown on Darby, and they stand tall with the AEW World Tag Team titles. They have not made it official, but it does look like what will end up happening here is the Bucks are going to use their EVP powers to skip the line because they're not ranked, because AEW's got rankings again that already don't make sense in some ways. And they will likely leapfrog all of the existing teams in the rankings to become the number one contenders, and that is going to be the title match at Revolution. And then the question just becomes, does Sting go out on his back in his final match? He does the honors, and the Young Bucks win the tag team titles to set up this heel run as champions, or do they swerve us, and do they have Sting go over and end his career undefeated, and then they could always vacate the titles and have a tournament, and the Bucks could end up with the belts anyway? That really is the only question that has yet to be answered. But I thought that was a very enjoyable main event, if for no other reason, because it was a special moment. Because we all know it's the last time we're ever going to see Sting in the ring holding a belt of any kind, unless it's a belt to hold his pants up. And it was an enjoyable match in the main event. One of many things that were enjoyable on tonight's show. You know what else was enjoyable on tonight's show? The opening match with Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland, Part 3, in their feud, to determine who is the number one contender to go on to challenge Samoa Joe at Revolution for the AEW World title. And I know, stop me if you're shocked by this, but we did not get a winner. I know, I'm as stunned as you are. No winner. Instead, we are going to get a three-way match at the pay-per-view with Joe defending his title against both men. Predictable as that may be, it was one of the greatest opening matches in the history of Dynamite. But the other big story coming out of tonight's show, what people were waiting for, where they were wondering, what was he going to say? What was he going to announce? Tony Khan loves his big announcements. He loves it. He could hardly contain himself when he's on screen and he's about to deliver some kind of big news, whether it's about a wrestler, whether it's about an event, whether it's about what he ate for breakfast, whatever it may be. And there was a lot of speculation about Boston, because there was one date on the calendar in the month of March for Dynamite that was left open. We already knew where the March 7th episode was airing. We already know the March 20th, I believe. March 13th had not been announced as far as the location of Dynamite on that particular night. That got a lot of people talking. And then earlier today, seemingly the announcement, got spoiled when the TD Garden Arena in Boston went live on their website with the announcement that AEW Dynamite was coming to Boston on March 13th. And so you start putting two and two together. Boston, that's where a certain someone grew up, where a certain someone calls home. Dynamite's coming to Boston. We're not stupid. A lot of people had this figured out before they even went on the air tonight. And so Tony Khan went on TV and he just repeated the fact that, yes, earlier today, TD Garden announced that, in fact, AEW is coming on March 13th. And he added a few more interesting details. Not only is it going to be AEW Dynamite, it is going to be the first ever AEW, as he calls it, Big Business. That is what they are called. Now, they have these themed episodes of Dynamite from time to time. This will basically be another, like, Winter is Coming. That's basically what this is. What was the other one they had? Quake by the Lake. They did that one summer. And they've had a few others. So this one will be called Big Business. But the reason that this is significant, because that in and of itself, I mean, who gives a shit? But they put the graphic, they put the logo for it up on screen. And if you paid attention, as you can see here, 5 weeks from tonight, AEW Big Business. And in the background, not very subtle, but in the background, under the TD Garden logo is the word Boston. And you will take note that not only is it the word Boston, but they misspelled Boston. Why did they misspell Boston? Because they put the word boss. And they didn't just put the word boss in there, they got the $2 signs in the word boss, which could only mean one thing. She's on her way. Never mentioned the name Mercedes. All Tony Khan would say is that it is going to be a night that the entire pro wrestling industry will remember. Never mentioned Mercedes Moné, but he didn't have to. Because all you need to do is just look at the background. And so what they're doing here is they're running the first dance blueprint all over again. It's the CM Punk debut from a few years ago, where you knew CM Punk was coming back. The word had already leaked. It was the worst kept secret in pro wrestling. But the fact that Tony Khan went and booked a 15,000 seat, or I think it fits more than that, probably 20,000, but he booked this big building, this big NBA arena. He booked the United Center in Chicago for the first dance. And he didn't announce exactly what the big attraction was going to be, but he didn't have to, because the fans took over, and the fans' word of mouth started to spread, and everybody knew that it was the return of CM Punk. And as soon as they went on the air that night, you heard Cult of Personality, and it made for one of the greatest moments in AEW history. Even still, that is one of the biggest, loudest reactions to a debut or a return that I have ever heard. And I've been watching wrestling for a very long time. That was a special moment. And so what Tony Khan is going to try to do here is he is going to try to replicate that, because he knows that people are going to be expecting that woman to show up that night, and he doesn't have to say a word. I'm sure he's not going to mention her name once between now and then. But it will be very interesting to see how tickets sell, because they didn't have trouble selling tickets to the United Center when Punk made his debut. They sold like 15,000 tickets. I don't know that Mercedes is as big of a draw as CM Punk at the gates. We're about to find out. By word of mouth only. If Tony Khan doesn't announce anything major for that show, or if he just announces some very basic matches, can they sell 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 tickets? How many tickets do they even open up for that show? There's a lot of questions that have to be answered about that. But Tony, when he made the announcement in that backstage segment, he had such a geeky smile on his face. He had such a big smile on his face that it looked to me like that was not just, hey, we got a big debut in our back pocket. That was, we got a big double debut in our back pocket. That's what that face was. That face was more than just Mercedes is coming to AEW, especially the line about how it's going to be a night that the pro wrestling industry will never forget. I like Mercedes. I'm a big fan of hers, but you got to watch it on the hyperbole there. What would be bigger than a Mercedes Moné debut that night? How about the debut of Mercedes and a certain Rainmaker? In fact, it fits. The dollar signs, it all fits. Big business. I mean, for God's sakes, the fucking arena, the sponsor of the arena, it's named after a bank. It's literally named after TD Bank. So you can bank on the fact that not only are we going to get Mercedes, but I would bet anything that we are also going to get Okada on that show as well. And he'll be making it rain in Boston. Look, if I just signed Mercedes and Okada, plus I got Will Ospreay coming in the next few weeks, I'd have a big geeky smile on my face too. I can't say that I blame the guy, because those are some huge pickups. If in fact he has all three of them, we already know he has one, but if in fact he has all three of them, that's huge for him, especially at a time when MJF is still out. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Adam Cole, don't know when he's going to be able to get back in the ring, right? They've been plagued by injuries. So is WWE lately. Those are some big names for him to get in, if in fact they're all coming in. And then you ask, well, okay, Mercedes is, let's say, going to debut that night. Who's her first opponent going to be? I was thinking about this. Like, who would I match her up with first? Either, in a TV match, or I don't know if they would hold her debut off in the ring until Double or Nothing. I mean, that's another 2.5 months. But as far as a first opponent, I think Willow Nightingale would work perfectly as a first opponent for Mercedes, because the last time we saw her in the ring was against Willow. They had that match last year. It was for the women's IWGP Championship. Mercedes broke her ankle. They called an audible. She called an audible. And Willow won the title. So we didn't really get to see the big climax of what had been up to that point a very good match. I would like to see them get back in the ring together and finish what they started. And plus, Willow, not only is she a great opponent for her, but she's someone that Mercedes can beat. So I think Willow Nightingale, just throwing it out there, would make for a fine first opponent for Mercedes when she comes in. This is your AEW Dynamite review for February 7th. 2024. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. That man right there, Takeshita, he was on the show tonight as well. Picked up a win, as he should. We'll talk more about him and what I hope they don't do with him going forward now. But like and subscribe. Thank you, by the way.
What about Kevin Dunn? Kevin Dunn.
Fuck Kevin Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Moxley. Yes, Mr. Moxley telling it like it is. And there she is. The complex gentleman came in at just the right time. Thank you for that super chat and all the other ones too. I'm going to go through your super chats a little bit later, but thank you for the $38 one there. What I was going to say is we hit 77,700 earlier. So let's build on that. We're on the march towards 78,000 and beyond. So thank you for all the subs. And if we hit 400 likes, that is the goal for Be the Booker. I think we're more than halfway there already. I'm going to have to start upping these goals. It was quite the main event that we booked in that segment at the end of the Raw stream on Monday night. I don't know that we can replicate that, but we're going to try. That'll come later if we hit our goal. Dynamite opened with the third chapter in the rivalry between Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. This time to decide who goes on to challenge Samoa Joe, Samoa Bro, for the AEW World Heavyweight title at Revolution. If you were going to try to put on one hell of an opening match that would make people sit up in their chairs and pay attention, then this match right here is one that you could not possibly go wrong with. The first thing I noticed, though, before we even talk about what happened during the match, couldn't help but notice because they had it right there on the hard cam, there was somebody in the crowd that had a sign that said, "The Rock eats corn the long way." So there were some Rock haters in the crowd. There was one other sign that I saw as well, but yeah. So that was the first thing that greeted me when I was watching this match tonight. The fans popped for the opening bell, so they were ready. As soon as the bell sounded, they knew what they were about to get. They saw the first two matches between these men. They saw Wrestle Dream. They saw Full Gear. I don't know how you top what you did at Full Gear, but they were going to try. So the fans were amped up. And then, as amped up as they were, and for such a blood feud between these two, these men hate each other's guts. What's the first thing they do when they come together and they touch in this ring? They lock up. Are you fucking kidding me? We got a collar and elbow tie-up between these two to kick off this grudge match between Hangman and Swerve. Unbelievable. But it was very clear early on that this was a very pro-Swerve crowd. Most of the crowds have been very pro-Swerve. But more so tonight, a very pro-Swerve crowd here. Hangman got booed progressively more as the match went on. By the time this was over, it felt like a double turn. That's kind of what it felt like. They took the fight to the floor early on. Hangman ran Swerve into the barricade. He performed a fall-away slam on the floor. A few minutes later, Swerve dodged an Orihara moonsault. Hangman landed on his feet, and then he rolled backwards. And when he stood back up, Swerve caught him with a rolling flatliner and took him right back down. Then Swerve got back in the ring. He hit a Fosbury flop to the floor, took Hangman back down to the ground. Back inside, the house call kick connected, and Hangman kicked out. Both men fought to the corner with Hangman trying a sunset flip powerbomb, but Strickland, the idea here was that he was backflipping out of it, and he almost broke his neck. I mean, he landed right on top of his head and his shoulder. It was scary, but he seemed to be okay. That's one of those spots where the guy pops right back up. You know, his neck isn't broken. He seems to be okay. But you take bumps like that, a few years down the road, he's going to be out for a year with fucking spinal fusion surgery. Like, that was a nasty spot. But he got right back to his feet, and he hit a spin kick to the head. Strickland wanted a JML driver. Page spun out of it into a Liger bomb for a 2 count. Hangman was, by this point, he was loudly being booed by this crowd. And he tried for a buckshot lariat. Swerve dodged it, hit a buckshot of his own. That got a huge reaction. And he followed that with a Swerve stomp, got a close 2 count. Page rolled outside, and Strickland wanted a pile driver while he was trying to balance himself on the top portion of the barricade. And then Page countered into a DDT on the top part of the barricade. And they both fell to the floor, and we went to picture-in-picture with chants of, "Holy shit." During the break, Page set up a table on the floor, and when the show came back full picture, both men were trading big boots, and they both crumbled at the same time. So now, after laughing in Hangman's face from the strikes that were being thrown, Swerve was laughing at him. He answered with a backbreaker, and he hung Hangman upside down at a tree of woe. Outside. He was hanging on the outside portion of the ring. And Swerve delivered a Swerve stomp. Page very gently rolled over onto the table that had been set up on the floor. And the table collapsed. Because that's what happens sometimes, right? I am the table. So the table collapsed. And Swerve went to go search for another one. He went to one side of the ring. He looked under the ring. There was nothing there. He went to the other side over in front of the announce desk. Prince Nana was like, over there. And he went under and he pulled the table out. And so they set that one up. Back on the opposite side of the ring where the other one collapsed. Swerve rolled Page back inside. He tried for a 450 splash. Hangman, though, got the knees up. Yeah, I have not acknowledged, that's right, I have not acknowledged the porn stash that Hangman is growing his mustache out. He looks like something out of one of these, what was that guy that had all the TV dramas back in the 80s? Stephen Cannell, I think. Stephen J. Cannell, whatever his name was. He had all those shows. Hunter and all those shows. He looked like something out of Magnum P.I. from the 80s. Maybe that's why he's getting so much heel heat now. Keeps growing that mustache out. He looks like Silas Young. So Page got the knees up on the 450 splash. At the same time, we got the 5-minute time call from Justin Roberts, who let us know that there were 5 minutes remaining in this match. And again, this match was going by so quickly, it didn't feel like 25 minutes had gone by. So Page leveled Strickland with a lariat before a buckshot then turned Strickland inside out. So that's back-to-back. It looked like Hangman had the match won. He went over, and he covered Swerve. And at the very last moment, Swerve was able to get his foot on the bottom rope to break the pin. Then Hangman connected with a deadeye on the apron, and he told referee Paul Turner to count Strickland out. Now, Prince Nana was outside the ring. Swerve had told him before the match that he did not want his help, because Hangman has told Swerve in recent weeks, the only reason you beat me those 2 times was because you had your goon squad. You can't beat me fair and square. You can't beat me by yourself. And so Swerve did not want Nana or anybody else getting involved here. So Nana sees that his man is down, and his man is in jeopardy of losing this match because he's going to be counted out. And so Prince Nana does the only thing that he knows how to do. He starts to dance. He starts to do the Prince Nana dance. And it worked. It motivated Swerve to get back to his feet, and he dove back into the ring, and he just barely beat the count at 9.9. But he got back into the ring in time. It's like what Paul Bear and the Urn were to the Undertaker is what Prince Nana and the dancing artists were. So it worked for him here. Page hit a baseball slide, though, immediately knocked Swerve right back out to the floor. And then Hangman goes to find a steel chair. And now he is ready to take this guy's head off. He's looking at Swerve. He's rearing back. Nana is standing behind him. So one of 2 things are going to happen here. Either he's going to go to swing the chair and Nana is going to grab it out of his hands, or he's going to do what he did, and he's going to turn around at the very last second, and he's going to blast Prince Nana with the steel chair. And that's exactly what he did. And so down goes Nana. But when Hangman turned around, Swerve kicked the chair right back into his face. He got him back in the ring. He hit the Swerve stomp, but immediately clutched his ankle like he landed wrong on it. Strickland tried a JML driver. Page rolled through. He started wrenching then at the bad ankle. Both men fought to the apron again, and this time Swerve hit a deadeye through the table that he set up outside the ring. And that was crazy. It sounds like a crazy spot, but really, is it any crazier than anything we saw these 2 guys do at Full Gear in their Texas Death Match? No. So I said, when you have a match like that, the bar is set so high, you can't take it any higher without killing each other. Like, there's nothing they could do in a 3rd match, a 4th match, a 5th match that could possibly be any more insane than what they did at Full Gear. And I don't want it to get any more insane. What we saw at Full Gear was fucking ridiculous enough. I'm not looking for them to go out there and top what they did at Full Gear. But you see a spot like this, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But you know what? We've seen worse between these 2. So Strickland wanted a 3rd Swerve stomp. Page moved, and Strickland collapsed. And Hangman wanted a buckshot. Swerve dodged it. He did hit the JML driver. But as he struggled to reach over and hook the leg for the cover, he only got a 2 count before the bell rang. And everybody knew what that meant. The boos immediately began to rain down upon them. Paul Turner counted 2. The time limit expired. We got the call from Justin Roberts. Therefore, this match is a time limit draw. And everybody booed because nobody... even though everybody should have expected the match to end that way, it's exactly what I predicted last week, and it's exactly what anybody who pays attention to the show should have predicted, that we were not going to get a clean winner, and we're going to end up with a triple threat at Revolution. But it didn't make these people any happier. Until Swerve took the microphone, he demanded 5 more minutes. He was like Lex Luger at the King of the Ring in '93 with Tatanka. He wants 5 more minutes. Or I guess to use a more recent example, you could say Adam Cole from Dynamite last year with MJF. Page was laying on the mat, but he was leaning up against the ropes, and he was kind of laughing like he was a psychopath. He was laughing like the Joker. And he was saying that it was Swerve who needed to beat him in order to go to Revolution and get a shot at the AEW World title. He was saying that he has to beat Hangman to be the number 1 contender, which just makes absolutely no sense. But he says, you didn't do it. And Page said that Strickland won't become the world champion. At that point, Tony Schiavone stood up. He's getting word from the back. Tony Schiavone is like he's become the... remember every time we had the anonymous Raw general manager and we had that stupid sound? And then somebody, Michael Cole, would get up to the podium to make the announcement because the fucking laptop had something to say. That's what Tony Schiavone is here, basically. It's like we get the ding-ding from the anonymous GM, and then Tony Khan, he makes some kind of announcement in the man's ear, and Tony Schiavone stands up, and he lets everybody know that Tony Khan says there are now 2 number 1 contenders for the AEW World title, and it's going to be a triple threat match at Revolution for the world title, with Samoa Joe defending against both Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. And Page was furious about this, and he stormed off to the back. These 2 men, I said Hangman kind of reminded me of the Joker, the way he was laughing at himself. These 2 are like Batman and the Joker if the Joker became the hero and Batman became the villain. And you wonder why characters, you think of some of these television shows, and like the anti-hero, you wonder why Tony Soprano had so many people rooting for him not to get caught. You wonder why someone like Vic Mackey on The Shield, you had a lot of people who rooted for Vic, and they wanted to see him not get caught. They wanted to see him keep doing the things he was doing. But these are terrible people. These are bad people. So why are fans so enchanted with these characters and they cheer for them anyway? I'm not saying Swerve is a bad guy, but he was a heel. Think about what this man did. Think about why Hangman is pissed off in the first place and is out for blood. Because this man broke into his home. He invaded his home. He threatened the safety and the sanctity of his family, his wife and his young son. Anybody in his position would feel exactly the same way. They would want to go in there and they would want to, I was going to say rip the guy's throat out, but then again, it started with a collar and elbow tie-up. So I don't know. Maybe he's not that angry at him after all. I don't know. But let's not lose sight of that. That's how this whole thing began. Over a professional wrestling match, Swerve broke into this man's home. And yet Hangman apparently now is the villain. They're booing Hangman out there. When this was over, it felt like a double turn to me, even though neither of these guys did anything to really turn. They didn't really do anything different than they normally would do. But the way this crowd reacted, that's how it felt to me. But if I wanted to put on the best opening match that I could to really kick things off in a big way on Dynamite, and if I had to pick, okay, who am I going to put? I had to pick 2 people to put in the ring and have the best possible match. Who would it be? Right now, it would be these 2 guys. These 2 guys, when the bell rings and you put them in the ring together, these 2 guys don't miss. Right? There's a lot of talented people on the roster you could put in the ring. You could put Takeshita in there. You could put Kenny Omega in there. Bryan Danielson. I mean, it's a very long list with AEW. But these 2 have proven time in and time out that when they get in the ring, it's fucking great. And tonight was no different. Their first match was great. Their second match was just insane. And this was another pay-per-view caliber match between these 2 to open the show. There have been a couple of other Dynamite openers that have gone to a 30-minute draw. This is not the first one. We saw that actually with Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega at the first Grand Slam. We saw the opening match go 30 minutes last year on Dynamite, last summer. Between MJF and Adam Cole, they had that world title eliminator. It went the 30-minute time limit. This one is up there with those among the best matches in AEW Dynamite history. I thought this was fantastic. It went 30 and it never felt like it. Now, Hangman, he still cannot get that win over Swerve. He could have gone 0-3 tonight. He didn't. But he still has yet to pin Swerve or to make him submit. And he's out here talking about how you had to beat me to become the number 1 contender. And of course, that doesn't make any sense because Swerve is the one who already has 2 wins over this fucking guy. At least in the rankings, when they put the rankings out last week, and I guess the rankings are probably out right now. I haven't checked them to see what they are. But the first set of rankings they put out last week, at least they were sensible enough to have Swerve listed at number 1, and they had Hangman listed at number 2. But this still doesn't make any sense. Because if Swerve Strickland has 2 straight wins over Hangman Page, Hangman came into tonight 0-2 against this man, then why does Swerve even have to fight him to begin with to become the number 1 contender? I mean, there may have been, again, there were some matches like in the Continental Classic that he lost and whatnot, but forget that. He beat this fucking guy twice in a row. We should be asking the question of why he even needed to have this match tonight. It should automatically have been Swerve against Samoa Joe for the AEW World title. Instead, it's going to be a triple threat match. I'm fine with that. And I'll leave you with this as far as this goes. Hangman is losing his mind, right? As I said, this guy is driving him to the brink. He made a comment on television not that long ago. I don't even know if it was a month ago, maybe. But he made a comment that he was going to take something away from Swerve that was near and dear to him or very important to him because, again, of what he had done to him. He was going to basically get his revenge and do the same to him. And he made the comment tonight, you will never be the AEW World Champion. Now we know we're getting a triple threat match. And I can almost envision a finish where Swerve has the match won. And he's got Samoa Joe dead to rights. And Hangman breaks up a pin or he just interferes in his big moment. And it's Hangman who ends up taking the losing fall, but he's okay with it because Swerve didn't win. Some kind of finish like that where he can then turn around when it's over and say, I may not have won, but I took something away from you that I know means more to you than life itself. And that makes me happy. It's the Drew McIntyre thing. What did Drew McIntyre say to CM Punk on Raw Monday night? Right? He said, you eliminated me from the Royal Rumble. I couldn't even sleep. And then I woke up the next day and I heard the news about your injury and I slept like a baby. He said, I dreamt about this and it came true. I don't even care that I didn't win the Royal Rumble. I just cared that you didn't. It's the same concept. So I can see there being a finish like that. But it's going to be great. I can't wait to see the match. And Samoa Joe is actually up next in a backstage segment coming out of this. Renee was in the back with him, and he sarcastically said that he was feeling joy and merriment over the finish that we just saw. And actually, he was very pissed off. He said that neither man won, and therefore neither man deserves to be in the ring with him. Joe said that no matter what they do, he will walk out of Revolution as the world champion. He said both men will suffer because of it.
Do you feel him, sir?
I do feel him. I do feel Samoa Joe. Hey, the Mount Vernon Kid, thank you for the $12 super chat. We just hit our goal, by the way. How about that? We're only one match in. We already hit our goal for Be the Booker, so thank you guys. We'll be doing that a little bit later. Now let's try to hit 500. Get me up to 500. That's where I need to be. Deonna Purrazzo was out next to do commentary for the next match. It was a women's world title eliminator between Timeless Toni Storm, the reigning world champion, and Red Velvet. Velvet threw an early leg lariat. She set Toni up in the corner, charged in for a move. Toni cut her off and hit a sky high for a 2 count. That took us into a commercial break.
Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream. Row Roman Reigns gently down the stream.
Row that bitch down the stream. Row Roman Reigns. That's right. They're going to be rowing Roman Reigns on into Las Vegas for the big press conference tomorrow. Talk about that later. So Velvet, this was coming out of the break. Velvet put the champion down with the Bulldog. Toni Storm, she was leaning against the ropes, and Velvet hit her with the double knees. Followed up with a standing moonsault for a 2 count. Velvet went for a move in the corner, and Toni was able to avoid it. And she came back with a hip attack in the corner, which just, again, you talk about whiplash. Holy fucking shit. Like, how do you take a move like that? It's just, you see that coming in, and I know some of you horny bastards would love it. You would be sitting there with a sign that with a fucking arrow pointing down, like, yeah, I'm ready for it. But like, you watch a move like that, and it's just the impact, just like the sudden impact of it. I don't know how people don't get whiplash on that spot. But she put Velvet down with a DDT. Storm went for the pin. Velvet escaped it too. And then Toni applied an ankle lock. She looked over at Deonna as she was applying it, and she got Red Velvet to tap out. So Purrazzo got in the ring when she realized that Toni was not going to let go of the hold, even though the match was over. So they came face to face. It looked like Toni was smelling her. She was smelling her face. I thought she was going to lick her, but she was smelling her, I think. And Luther got into the ring to separate the two of them. I don't know if you noticed where Luther put his hands. My guy here. But Luther, he took his hands and he separated the two. And Excalibur then hyped up their world title match, which is coming up at Revolution. So, pretty average stuff here in the ring as far as the match goes. But I thought it was a fine way to just, keep things moving on the road to Revolution between these two. Backstage, Renee interviewed Orange Cassidy, who was accompanied by Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. Renee said that Cassidy will be defending his title against Tomohiro Ishii on Collision this Saturday, the Stone Pitbull. And first, Friday night on Rampage, though, he would be competing in a 6-man tag against the Undisputed Kingdom. And she asked if he was worried about the wear and tear of the 6-man tag before his title. The wear and tear. We had a storyline with this guy for like 9 straight months when he was the champion the first time, where he was wrestling every single week. And then she would interview him and he was like half dead. His knee hurts, his arm hurts, his head hurts. So now he's wrestling back-to-back matches and she's so concerned about this guy. He'll be fine. He said he wasn't worried. Actually, he said he was worried, but he said he'll be fine. So she noted that Chuck Taylor was out injured, and Cassidy said that Chuck was being checked out in the trainer's room. They were about to go check on him being checked out. There you go. We had the Blackpool Combat Club against Team CMLL. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli against Volador Jr., Mascara Dorada, and Hechicero. There were 3 other CMLL stars that were shown sitting in the front row, including Mystico. Danielson and Hechicero, they had an early exchange coming off their singles match on Collision this past weekend that Danielson won. Shout out to Grant Hudson, one of our new channel members, and also Aaron. I saw you, Aaron. Aaron gifted 10 memberships. Justin gifted a few as well. Thank you guys for the memberships. Welcome to the family. Claudio no-sold some chops from Dorada. Moxley and Volador tagged in. Volador sent Moxley to the floor with a head scissors takedown. And then Volador hit Moxley with a suicide dive. Dorada tried for a springboard move while Moxley and Danielson were holding his arms. And he botched it, but kept going. Didn't miss a beat. And he popped the crowd with a nice Hurricane Rana on Moxley. All 3 members of the Blackpool Combat Club were at ringside. Volador and Hechicero, they hit dives out onto them, and then Dorada hit a shooting star press off the middle rope onto the pile on the floor. Hechicero and Danielson got back in the ring, and Hechicero applied a hammerlock. He spun Danielson around. Volador hit Danielson with a 450 splash and had the pin until Moxley and Claudio broke it up. And Dorada hit a destroyer on Claudio, and then Moxley broke that pin up. So there was a whole series here. There was a rapid-fire stuff going on. Claudio and Hechicero, they squared off. And Hechicero rolled Claudio into a pin for a 2 count. Volador launched Dorada into a drop kick on Danielson, but then Moxley put both of them down with clotheslines. Hechicero hit a guillotine leg drop on Claudio and got a 2. Claudio shoved Hechicero into the referee, and then he hit him with a low blow. Referee didn't see. And then he pinned him. So not exactly, it's not like Imperium where, everything with, like Gunther, for example, he's the heel, right? He's been champion for 600 plus days. Doesn't cheat to win his matches. What does he talk about? He talks about the mat is sacred, right? There's a certain honor to what he does. And at one time, the Blackpool Combat Club kind of followed that same code. But from time to time, you do what you got to do. So they picked up the win. After the match was over, the luchadors from ringside, they got into the ring. Christopher Daniels ran out, Matt Sydal, Angelo Parker, Matt Menard, and they chased the CMLL crew away. The action was fine. I just, I'm not really into it. And I don't follow CMLL, so as far as some of these names, and I know these are some notable names from the promotion, it just doesn't do anything for me. So the action was fine. Beyond that, though, I don't really feel anything for this. It's fine. Taz on commentary, he was kind of railing against them as like this, invading force. Then we see the hometown guy cheating to win the match in the end. So there's kind of a little bit of a disconnect there. But this is clearly going to continue between the two promotions. They cut to the back where Chuck Taylor was shown. He was laid out on the ground, and he was laid out by the Undisputed Kingdom. And it was good to see Wardlow up and at him after that injury scare last week with the knee. I don't know. He may have a minor injury, but obviously it can't be that bad if he was there on TV standing there. Adam Cole rolled himself up to Chuck Taylor, who was on the ground, and he mockingly told him to get well soon. Meanwhile, on commentary, Excalibur wondered, what's the meaning of this? So let me explain to Excalibur, the announcer. I will try to explain. In a previous segment on the show that aired not long before this one, we were informed that Orange Cassidy and Best Friends, they were going to be in a 6-man tag against the Undisputed Kingdom on Rampage this Friday. And then we see the Undisputed Kingdom laying out one of the Best Friends. Just a hunch. I would think that might have something to do with it. But hey, they don't pay me the big bucks like Excalibur does. Excalibur makes the big money. He gets to spend all that money on those masks that he wears every single week. Far be it from me to try to educate him. Tony Khan was standing by for a major announcement. This was the big announcement that they hyped up last week. Earlier today, the TD Garden announced that AEW is returning to Boston on Wednesday, March 13th. He says that will be a very important night for AEW and the entire wrestling industry. It will be the first ever AEW big business. It's funny. When he was talking, I'm listening to what he's saying while trying to take notes on what he's saying. And at first, the way I read it was, for the first time ever, AEW is going to do big business. They're going to do big business. And I thought, well, really? Okay. I could have sworn they put 70 some odd thousand people into Wembley Stadium last year. I mean, don't sell yourself short. They did big business at least on that one night. I know business has not been necessarily that big for them lately in some of these markets. But no, he did not say that for the first time ever, AEW will do big business. But they are hosting the first ever big business. And it will be a night that the entire pro wrestling industry will remember. And they said the tickets go on sale on Saturday. Again, I already talked about it at the top. There's no way that this is not going to be the debut of Mercedes. Okada, far from a guarantee, but I would be surprised if we don't get the debut for both of them on that show. It just fits so perfectly with the name and the theme of the show. And we've seen him do this before. We saw this at All Out a few years ago when they threw Adam Cole out there as almost like a swerve. And then, boom, they hit us with Bryan Danielson only a few moments later. And that night, in many ways, I feel like that night was kind of the peak. I feel like that was the apex for AEW. I don't know that they have ever been higher than they were that night when that 2021 All Out show went off the air that night. And they had Cole, and they had Danielson, and they had just signed Punk. Punk wrestled Darby that night, his first match for the company. It really felt like they had reached a new level. And I don't know that they ever really got back to that point. But again, it's the sort of thing we've seen before where they'll hit you with a double debut. That's what I feel like we're going to get on the 13th. I will be very interested to see how they do, though, as far as tickets. If they don't announce anything in advance as far as big names or who the surprise is or going to be, how do those ticket sales compare to what they did for the first dance when they kind of followed the same blueprint? It'll be very interesting to watch. Chris Jericho was up next, one-on-one with Konosuke Takeshita. If you're wondering, the negative reactions that have been following Jericho around for several weeks now have mostly petered out. Takeshita got some cheers here, but it's not like it was for Jericho a few weeks ago. It's not at the point still where Tony Khan has to hide this man. He has to put him on the tape show, or he has to keep him in backstage segments. So they don't have to worry about that anymore. After trading some shoulder tackles, Jericho connected on a stiff forearm, and he clotheslined Takeshita to the floor. Don Callis was not happy. He showed some tough love. He walked up to Takeshita and he smacked him in the face. And that woke him up, because after that, Takeshita was relentless. He dropped Jericho with a brainbuster on the floor. And the crowd cheered for Takeshita. He hit a second rope senton back inside, followed by a Takeshita line. Jericho went up and over in the corner and connected on a double axe handle, but Powerhouse Hobbs was outside. He tripped the leg, which allowed Takeshita to regain control. And then Hobbs, out of nowhere, got cracked right in the back with a chair shot by Sammy Guevara, who ran out, and he no-sold it. So after no-selling the chair to the back, Sammy, he does a little springboard off the ring steps, and he connects with a cutter on the floor. And again, Hobbs mostly no-sells it. He's a little wobbly, but he immediately popped back up to his feet, and then Sammy blasted him with a chair shot to the face. Now, it did look to me like Hobbs got his right hand up just in the nick of time. I hope he did, because if not, it's just fucking stupid. At least if you're going to do a spot like that, get your hand up. And I think he may have at the very last second. I don't need to be seeing people get blasted in the fucking head with chairs in 2024. So that knocked him over the barricade. The two of them fought off into the crowd. Jericho sent Takeshita to the floor, and then he reached over to the top of the I think it was on the top of the post, and he grabbed the demon mask that Takeshita wears out to the ring. This was actually hilarious. So he takes the demon mask and he puts it over his head. So Jericho is a demon. Okay, some people might agree with that. He then does a dive off the top rope to the floor, which sounds all well and good. The problem is, it looked like he couldn't see where Takeshita was because he had this giant fucking mask on his head. So he mostly missed him. He like clipped him on the way down, but he mostly missed him, I believe, because he couldn't see. I thought that was funny. Back from a commercial break, Takeshita hit a sit-out F5 and a violent running boot that sent Jericho's head snapping back against the ropes, and his head snapped back hard against the ropes. And it's not the last time that Jericho took a pretty hard bump in this match. There's another one coming up here. So Takeshita followed that with an over-the-top dive outside the ring. Back inside, he wanted a top rope senton. Jericho, though, got the knees up. Jericho wanted the lion salt, but Takeshita got his knees up. And then Jericho attempted the walls. Takeshita rolled through it, tried a crunchy, mistimed it. Both men landed awkwardly. And there was a Takeshita line that got countered into a code breaker. Takeshita countered a lion salt into a blue thunder bomb for 2. And Jericho tried a corner Hurricane Rana, which Takeshita slipped out of and hit an avalanche blue thunder bomb for a close 2 count. And on that spot, Jericho's head, I mean, it just ricocheted hard off the mat on that avalanche blue thunder bomb. Takeshita hit the power drive knee. He tried another one. Jericho blocked it into the walls of Jericho. At that point, Callis threw a chair into the ring. And he did that to distract the referee, which is not hard to do in this company. So, of course, it worked. And so now with the referee's attention diverted, Callis popped Jericho. He reached in, he popped Jericho right in the head with the screwdriver. And from there, Takeshita locked in the walls of Jericho. Jericho almost faded. The arm dropped once. The arm dropped twice. Did not drop a third time. And at that point, Takeshita transitioned into a lion tamer, and at that point, Jericho tapped out. So that is 2 wins over Kenny Omega, 1 in a trios match, 1 in a singles match, way back at All Out, and now a submission win on television over Chris Jericho. Now follow up. I dare you. I dare you. I double dog dare you to follow up, because that was the thing that pissed me off the most about that win over Omega at All Out. Now, Omega is out hurt, but he didn't get hurt until late in the year. It doesn't explain why they did virtually nothing of any meaning with Takeshita coming off that huge win, what should have been a huge win over Omega in September. That was September 3rd. How have they capitalized on that? They've done nothing. Then Omega got hurt, and so whatever plans they might have had, then it went up in smoke. Well, now he just beat Chris Jericho. And I don't know what a win over Jericho means at this point in 2024. Probably not that much. A win over Kenny Omega feels far bigger to me than a win over Chris Jericho in his early 50s, mid 50s, whatever he is. But it's still a win over Jericho. Now, I was not enamored with the idea that he would need help to do it. I know he's a heel, but I wish that he didn't need a fucking screwdriver to win him the match. But it was the only outcome. It was the correct outcome. The screwdriver stuff, by the way, I'm fucking over it. It's just a stupid spot. It's just so idiotic. I could do without that. I thought that sucked. But again, Takeshita winning was the only outcome. Now what? And I almost don't even care who it is. As long as it's someone of note. Right? I don't want him in there with Alex Reynolds. But just do something with him. I said the same thing about Hook. After he had the match, that great match with Samoa Joe. And then Hook came out on TV the following week and he cleared some of the security geeks out of the way. There was no Hook on the show this week, and we'll see what, if anything, they do with him. But the key is in the follow-up, man. You got to find something for this guy to do, and not with Chris Jericho. Sammy is obviously going to work with Hobbs. They're going to have a match at some point on TV. I mean, unless they hold out on it until Revolution. I don't know that that's necessarily a match that has to be on the pay-per-view. But whatever it is that's up next for Takeshita, I really don't want it to involve Chris Jericho. But I do wonder, with Will Ospreay coming in. Ospreay is wrestling his final New Japan match of his contract this Sunday. This Sunday is the new beginning in Osaka. Actually, it's also the final Tanahashi Okada match, at least for now. So after the cage match that his crew is having with Bullet Club on Sunday, he's done with New Japan, and he could officially start with AEW. I would expect him to start at Revolution and have a match on that show. Who against, I don't know. But I wonder if they will align him with Callis, because the last time we saw Omega, it was Omega against Ospreay. But the last time we saw Ospreay on television, he was aligned with Don Callis. And so I wonder if they'll link them back up, and if so, if there might be a turn. I kind of feel like Ospreay should be coming in maybe as a babyface. Having Ospreay work against Takeshita, see, there's something I'd love to see. I'm not saying they have to do it right away, but maybe he comes in, he's part of the Callis crew. They could always kick out Kyle Fletcher because, he's lost a bunch of matches for them, so kick him to the curb. And so you can have him as part of the Callis family, but then at some point there's a fracture within the group. And then in a few months, whether it's Double or Nothing, whether it's Wembley, you do an Ospreay Takeshita match, I'm down for that. We'll see what they do with him. He'll be in the next few weeks. The main event. We're already up to the main event of the show. The main event was a tornado match, which means no tags necessary. Sting and Darby Allin, undefeated, challenging for the AEW World Tag Team titles against the reigning champions, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Sting walked to ringside, and in the front row, he gave a hug to his two sons. Sting Jr.'s in the front row. One of them, actually, if you look at one, I forget which one it is. We'll call them Sting Jr. 1 and Sting Jr. 2. Sting Jr. 2, the one on the right, facially, dead ringer for his father back in the mid-'80s. Any picture I've seen of Sting back in the mid-'80s period without the face paint on, you could tell that he is from this man's loins. There's no mistaking it. There's a visual for you. So Big Bill, he slammed Darby into the barricade right out of the gate, right in front of Sting's family. And Sting and Ricky, they brawled into the crowd. And so up into the crowd they go. Ricky and Bill are beating up Darby. And as they're beating up Darby, and they're doing it by one of the tunnels, in the crowd for one of the sections. And I'm thinking, where's Sting? And Sting is standing. He's on top of the balcony waiting. Because you can just see him standing there and he's waiting. Until the heels get all bunched up together. And then Sting does the balcony dive. And he takes out Ricky and Big Bill. And as crazy Sting spots go, this one was actually pretty tame. It's still absolutely nutty to me that this guy is 64 years old. And being who he is, I mean, it's not like Sting even in his youth when he was a big star in WCW. And even in TNA, I don't remember him doing anything completely outlandish. I mean, Kurt Angle would do crazy stuff. Abyss would do crazy stuff. Samoa Joe will, for me anyway, he will forever own probably the dumbest spot award for all eternity for what he did on that one pay-per-view. Might have been against Sting now that I think about it, but he had that one pay-per-view match, remember, where he did, it wasn't a balcony dive, but they were up in the crowd. Actually, maybe it was against Sting. And they were up in the crowd, and Joe he builds up a head of steam, and he runs over the stairs. Okay, so you just have the stairs where the fans go to their seats, and the railing is in the middle, and he just fucking, like, dives back first, and he lands like on the edge of the fucking concrete steps. And I'm just like, I remember the first time I saw that, I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? Like, I watched him for years in Ring of Honor. He was the champion for 500, 600, 700 something days, whatever it was. And I don't ever remember seeing him do anything even remotely that crazy. But that's the kind of bump that will shave a good 5 to 10 years off your fucking life, let alone your career. Thankfully, we haven't seen Sting do anything quite that crazy. But to see him doing what he's doing at 64 years old is just ridiculous. It was Bound for Glory, was it 2006 or 2008? And it was against Sting. I thought it was against Sting. Funny enough, it was against Sting. All right, 2006. I'll never forget that spot. Yeah, and that's right, Green Pianist, you couldn't even see most of it. The way they shot it, because they shot it, I think it was from like a faraway camera in the crowd, but there was a second crowd camera angle where the camera was right there, and you just see, here comes Joe. What's the matter with this guy? All right, so anyway, after one last commercial break, Sting, they're back in the ring. He hits a Stinger splash against the barricade. They're back at ringside. Stinger splash against the barricade on Big Bill, who no-sold it. He just ran through poor Sting. There was an incredible spot here. This was my favorite spot of the match. One of my favorite moments of the entire show. Big Bill is outside the ring. And Darby Allin is coming in for a suicide dive. Normally, we see Darby, he sometimes goes through the middle and bottom ropes. I'm pretty sure this time he went through the middle and top rope. And he had to. Because the spot was, Big Bill catches him as he is diving out of the ring. But in one fluid motion, he catches Darby, he spins him around, elevates him, and slams him on the ground with a boss man slam. Visually, this was so visually pleasing to watch. I had to rewind it, watch it again. Watching this guy get just splatted on the fucking ground. It was so perfect. Like, what a great spot that was. It just looked fantastic. And it took out Darby. Back in the ring, Bill lifted Darby up in a choke before just slammed, like the tree slam position, but he just slammed him down to the mat and started bouncing Darby's head off the mat like a rubber ball. Bill and Ricky, they set up a table at ringside as Ricky called for Bill to press slam Darby through it. Sting, though, made the save, and then Sting ran wild. He dodged a big boot from Bill, and Bill ended up crotching himself on the top rope in the process. Stark snuck up from behind, and he laid out Sting with a Scorpion Death Drop. But then Darby was able to break out the pin. Or break up the pin. I agree with Mr. Dynamite. That was the best Boss Man Slam or Black Hole Slam. It'll always be the Boss Man Slam to me. That's the best Boss Man Slam I've ever seen. Ever. Anytime I've ever seen that spot, I've never seen one better than the one that Bill hit on Darby in this match. Fucking unbelievable. So Sting and Darby, they traded stinger and coffin splashes on Bill in the corner before Darby hit a code red on the big guy. And then a follow-up coffin drop to the floor that took Bill down. Ricky missed an enziguri on Sting, who locked him in the Scorpion Deathlock. And then Bill, after a while, he appeared on the apron, but he had a growth. He had a growth on his back. He should go to the doctor and get it checked out. And that growth had some face paint on it. It was Darby Allin who had a sleeper hold applied. Eventually, he was able to transition to the front of Bill's body, and he started gouging at his eyes, and then the momentum took them backwards, and they crashed through the table that had been set up outside the ring. Ricky got to the ropes, meanwhile, even though he was in the Scorpion Deathlock. Now, it's a tornado tag match. So there's no tags, there's basically no rules, and there's no rope breaks. Sting broke the hold anyway. Sting tried a stinger splash, but Ricky moved out of the way, and when he did, he ripped the turnbuckle pad off. So when Sting hit the corner, he hit the exposed steel. Ricky then connected. Now, there was a moment of hesitation where he had this look on his face like kind of the Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair thing from WrestleMania 24, but then he went and he hit the spear, and I thought, not seriously, but for a moment there, they almost had me. Sting, though, got a shoulder up at the last possible second. Ricky tried for another spear. He ran into a Scorpion Death Drop, and Sting pins Ricky Starks to win the AEW World Tag Team titles for his team. After the match, Sting's sons, they hop the barricade, and they celebrate with their dad on the apron. Taz on commentary is asking, what does this mean? He wants to know what this all means because Sting is wrestling a retirement match in a month. And now he's one half of the tag team champ. Well, I'll tell you what it means. It means he's going to fucking lose. That's what it means. That's one of the reasons why I was almost hoping they didn't win the titles on this show. Because you can never say with 100% certainty that they won't win again and then just vacate the belts and give Sting his moment to retire as champion. Yes, it's possible. Tony Khan might do that. I don't know that Sting would allow him to, though. I could see Sting being like, no, it's not right. You know, you put the belt on me. I should lose it to somebody instead of just forfeiting and giving it up. I could see him kind of wanting to be magnanimous that way and doing that. But I do think it makes the outcome more predictable now. There was that 50-50, like, will they keep him undefeated or won't they? And now, to me, it's like 80-20 in favor of, okay, Sting's doing the job at Revolution. But all of a sudden, as the celebration is on, here come, now I guess I have to use their birth certificate names. Matthew and Nicholas Jackson appear out of nowhere. And as this confetti is falling and this big celebration is going on, the Young Bucks ruin everything, and they're out there in their white suits with matching baseball bats. And they lay out Sting, they lay out Darby, they lay out both of Sting's kids. They hit them with the bats as well. Darby gets split open. There's blood all over the Bucks suits now because Darby's on his knees and he's kind of leaning against the Bucks. There's blood on the jacket. There's blood on the pants. And again, all white suit. So the visual of it was perfect, right? Because it's just, all you see is just the blood just soaking these suits. Then the Bucks hit the BTE trigger, which we were told is no longer the BTE trigger. They now have rechristened the move. They have dubbed it the EVP trigger. Get them even more heat. After more bat shots to Sting's ribs, the Bucks stood tall. The announcer said that nobody came out to help because the Bucks are EVPs, and so they must be afraid for their job. So basically, they're all a bunch of cowards. What a great way to describe your roster here. Plenty of people on this roster too, but they're all cowards apparently. They fear for their jobs. So the Bucks held up the tag team titles in their blood-covered suits to close out the show. I enjoyed the match. The match was exactly what I was expecting it to be, especially when they announced earlier today that it was tornado rules. They didn't announce that last week. That was something they just added recently, that the stipulation was going to be tornado. That's really how most of their matches have been. You know, because then you can have the smoke and the mirrors and you can bust out the weapons and the tables and Sting can go into the crowd and not get counted out and do a balcony dive. So again, that's how Tony Khan has been booking most of Sting's matches for his entire run. But I thought, and always a risk too, Sting at this stage, you got to kind of hold your breath when you have him in a match like this and he's doing a dive of some kind. You're a month out from this guy's retirement match. That entire show is really built around Sting's retirement in Greensboro, the place where it kind of all started for him. They've sold 16,000 tickets already for Revolution. AEW does not move that kind of, or have that kind of ticket movement in this country. I mean, they've already sold almost 40,000 for Wembley in August, but in this country, you just don't see this. So this is all Sting. And if he gets hurt, you put him on TV and he gets hurt 3 or 4 weeks before the pay-per-view, they're fucked. So there's always a risk involved here in doing something like this, but Sting looked fine. He gave the people the crowd-pleasing moment at the end of the show. As a fan of his, and I know this is it for him, and look, I know how wrestling retirements go, but to me, I think this really is it for him. I think he realizes that it's the end of the road. Look, Tony Khan gave him the option of retiring at Wembley. So you could have 50,000 people or 60,000. I mean, they're not going to have what they had last year. But let's say they have 50 or 60,000 people at Wembley Stadium this year. And that would have been a fine place for Sting to retire in front of a big stadium crowd like that. And he told Tony, I can't do it. Like, I just don't think my body can get me there. I don't think I have another 6 months left in me. So let's do it at Revolution. Let's do it at the pay-per-view where I had my first match for you. So I truly believe that this is it for him. I think that he gets to go out the way that he wants to, which is something that he had taken away from him in WWE because of the injury. That's not how he wanted his career to end. Now he gets to write the final chapter, hopefully in one piece, right? Hopefully at Revolution he doesn't get hurt. But he gets to go out, hopefully healthy, the way that he wants to. He gets to pick his opponent. I know there were a lot of people online who poo-pooed the decision to go with the Young Bucks, and then the reports came out about how it was Sting's call. And of course, these people still can't bring themselves to accept the fact that maybe, just maybe, this is the team that Sting wanted to work with because he had fun working with them at Forbidden Door a couple of years ago. The Bucks must have convinced him. It must have been a Tony Khan thing. He foisted this upon Sting, and Sting just went with it because the Bucks suck and they can't possibly want to work with the Bucks. If you stop and think about it and use your brain, and a lot of these people, unfortunately, they don't use the maximum amount of their brain power. A lot of these people I see on like Twitter and stuff like that, they use maybe a max of 11% brain power. So what they don't understand is that the Young Bucks are probably the safest fucking people for Sting to work with. Right? I mean, they're going to go out there. They're going to bump their asses off for him. They're going to make this guy look as good as they can possibly make him look. And they're going to protect him, and he knows that. So yeah, why wouldn't he want to work with them? Some people just can't accept that. They can't take their bias and put it on the side and say, all right, maybe Sting, this was his decision. They still can't bring themselves, some of these people, to admit that maybe it really was his call. So he gets to go out the way that he wants. Seeing him win the title here and pinning Ricky Starks, it makes me sad to see Ricky lose the title, and now I don't know what Tony Khan is going to do with him. My fear now is that he just kind of falls on the back burner, which is where he was for so long. I hope that's not the case. I still believe, I don't know when his contract is up. I've read and heard different things that, he's probably locked in for a while yet. I'm one of those people that believes the first chance he gets, Ricky is gone. And he's going to WWE. I don't know how long it's going to be until that day comes that he has to make that decision. Again, he could be locked in for another 2 years for all we know. I don't know. I just hope that he doesn't now get lost in the shuffle. I actually think him and Big Bill, they ended up gelling very well together as a team. So I would like to see them stick together in some way, whether it's just loosely as friends or if they want to continue their team for a while. I thought they ended up being a pretty good tag team together. And Big Bill is another one. What was Bill doing before this? The last thing I could remember Big Bill doing before this, he was part of the Firm. And then the Firm went bankrupt. Right? He was part of the Hardy stuff. Come on. So he's another one. He's really impressed when I've seen him on TV. And hopefully he'll be doing something more than just working Rampage matches. But it was a good main event with a great post-match angle. That was a great angle to put heat on the Bucks. I mean, the building was booing them, showering them with booze. And that visual of them with the blood on the suit, holding up the belts. I thought that part of it was great. They haven't made it official yet. Clearly, they're going to get the shot at Revolution. They're not ranked. And again, at least going by last week's rankings. I have not seen the rankings yet that have dropped tonight, but they weren't even in the top 5 last week, I don't think. So how are they going to get a tag team title match? Well, they're EVPs. So in storyline, it doesn't even matter. If they want to leapfrog everybody, this is why the rankings are a joke. Even if they are on there now, they're still a joke. So they're going to get the shot at Revolution. And if Sting is going to lose, I kind of threw this idea out weeks ago. And I would just keep it in the back of your mind. Keep it tucked away in the back of your mind. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm not saying it's what I would do. But the idea that Ric Flair, who is coming along for the ride as part of Sting's retirement, he's going to be there at Revolution. He'll be in Greensboro where they had their famous match. That Ric Flair is going to play into the finish of this match. If Sting is losing, and he may help cost Sting the match. One last time, Ric Flair, for old time's sake, screws over Sting. Gets a ton of heat for it, ton of heat on the Bucks. But then they work a very similar angle to what they did for, it was at the Tokyo Dome. Actually, a year ago this month, when we had Keiji Muto's retirement. And I think he lost to Naito, and then he called out Masahiro Chono at ringside, his old rival, for one last match. Chono never got a proper retirement match. And Chono got up from the announce desk, and he got into the ring, and the two of them had an impromptu match. I think Chono won. I could see that. I could see Ric Flair costing Sting this match, and then Sting maybe says, hey, old man, you want to go at it one more time? And we get an impromptu Sting-Ric Flair match in Greensboro. Even if it goes 90 seconds and Sting beats him, he taps him out in the Scorpion Deathlock one last time. I could totally see it. I have no interest in seeing Ric Flair back in the ring ever again. But I'm just saying, if Sting is going to lose those titles, it doesn't mean he has to go out a loser. It doesn't mean that they are going to send the fans home unhappy. So that was Dynamite. Best Dynamite of the year, easily. Best Dynamite that I've seen in a while. I thought the show was great. Rampage on Friday night has only that 6-man tag announced with Best Friends against, Best Friends and Rocky Romero against the Undisputed Kingdom. And then Collision on Saturday has Cassidy defending the international title against Tomohiro Ishii. Moxley and Claudio take on Star Jr. and... Is it Esfinge? I guess it's Esfinge. From you can see my CMLL knowledge is fairly limited here. And we will hear from Adam Copeland. And that is all that they have announced for Collision on Saturday. The Twitter poll for Dynamite tonight, 75% thumbs up, 25% thumbs down, with over 1,400 votes in so far. That's the best Dynamite score in quite some time. I'd go even higher. I'd probably go 80-20 on the show tonight. But 75-25 is the way it is looking right now. Go ahead and get those votes on in. Let me also mention this here before I get into all your Super Chats. And again, get them on in if you want me to read them, if you have questions. Tomorrow is the big WrestleMania 40 kickoff. Actually, I don't even think they're calling it the WrestleMania 40 kickoff. It's just the WrestleMania kickoff in Las Vegas. And they're going to have the press event. They're going to have Roman, Rock, Cody, probably Seth. They're all going to be there. A lot of wondering about what's going to happen. Are they going to swerve us? Are they going to change course? What's going to happen? What will officially be announced for WrestleMania 40? Will it be what I suggested? I said this the other day last week. Put it out there on Twitter. I said, perfect world scenario. They're in Vegas, not just because the Super Bowl is this weekend, but they're in Vegas because they're going to announce WrestleMania 41 is coming to Vegas. Rock and Roman, main event, WrestleMania, next year. Rock is going to give Cody his moment to challenge Roman for the championship this year. Is it going to go down that way? We'll find out. That's tomorrow. And depending on what happens at the press event, if there is some real big news coming out of that event, I may come on here and either go live or record something after, so just keep an eye out. I'll let you guys know. But I will be watching. And if anything big goes down, I will come on here and we'll talk about it. So clear your schedule for tomorrow night, whatever you may be doing. All right, let's get to your comments and questions here. In this very, very busy week of news. GMB, we're going to start with you. I think we started with you the other night. Does Mello give me 90s heel HBK vibes? Good face, but I believe Mello as a heel is one of the highest ceilings in the industry. He only gives me 90s HBK heel vibes because he was wearing the same leather jacket that Shawn was on the barbershop. I like him as a heel better than I do as a babyface, I agree. I saw that beatdown on Trick Williams at the end of Vengeance Day. I thought it was great. I like him a lot better as a heel. Ed Swoggle just got out of Dynamite. Left as Rampage was starting. LOL. I don't blame you. Easily my favorite Dynamite ever. Even if I wasn't there, I'd probably say that. Go Sting, he says. Rojo Bear 24. I think we're going to see both Mercedes and Okada debut in Boston, like how Bryan and Adam Cole did in All Out. Exactly what I said at the top of the stream. Dev to Dust, hot take, Ilya Dragunov is a terrible wrestler. That is not a hot take. That is a terrible take. And I am going to pretend that I did not hear you say that because I don't want to lose all respect that I have for you, Dev to Dust. That is the worst take that I have heard, maybe ever. So, I don't know what else to say to that. Arabian Night 2000, wow, AEW in the last year signed Jay White, Ospreay, Mariah, Deanna, Mercedes, and probably Okada. Is that telling and alarming for WWE and how some talent view them? I don't think it's alarming for a company that's making more money than they've ever made before. I don't really get the sense that they give a shit. So, no. I don't think it's alarming. I think it is telling in some cases that some of those names chose to go somewhere else. To me, it's just telling that you have an alternative where if you want to make really good money somewhere other than WWE and have a national presence on, television, a major network, it's good that you have another place you can go, even if there are fewer eyeballs on that product. That's what it tells me. To me, it just proves the point that I've always said, which is that the people who root against AEW to succeed aren't real fans. Those are not real wrestling fans. They're anarchists. You could hate AEW and not like AEW and piss on it and not watch it or whatever, but to say that you want it to be wiped off the face of the planet, you wish it didn't exist, you want to see it die and go belly up, again, that's not a wrestling fan. No wrestling fan would root for something like that. So it's very telling to me that we have a number 2 that people can go to instead of feeling like, well, there's only one place for me to go. That's a good thing. That's what that tells me. The Real CS says, calling it now. Not only will we be getting Mercedes in Boston, I think we'll see Okada there as well. He is all elite. Not a doubt in my mind. Yeah, no, I believe he is all elite. Absolutely. And that is exactly bang on with what I said earlier as far as when I believe we will see him. Justin Hesse, that EVP trigger was right on target. See Justin coming in with the dad jokes, I see. Bobbert Reviews with the $38 Kevin Dunn super chat. It's a favorite of his, I think. The Juliet 316 says Scott D'Amore's firing reminds me of the same crap Turner/Time Warner would do in putting corporate lackeys in charge of WCW. Not good. Tony Khan should pick him up. Yeah, in a year so far of shocking news, it just keeps on coming. I will talk about the Scott D'Amore stuff on Sunday. I'm sure we'll get more details in the next few days about that story as well. Funny thing about that, honestly, is that when you think about the fact that that company just rebranded as TNA, that moment that we saw today when that news was announced about D'Amore being fired from the company is probably the most TNA moment that we have had from the new TNA. M. Mills, thank you for the $8. Rodimus Prime, good show overall, especially the opener. The triple threat at Revolution is going to be excellent. How could it be anything but? You already know you're going to get something excellent with Hangman and Swerve. You dropped Samoa Joe in there? How could it be anything but great? The Mount Vernon Kid says, found it weird that the locker room comes out for CMLL wrestlers, but not for the beatdown of Sting and family. It just feels stupid. I get the Bucks are EVPs, but come on, just my opinion. Yeah, I mean, they tried to explain it on commentary. I think they actually just buried the roster even worse by making it sound like they're all just a bunch of pusses here who are afraid of their own shadow and they're afraid to lose their job. It made them look like a bunch of fucking cowards. So I agree, that was very dumb. Justin G, might the NXT reveal be Katsuhiko Nakajima? He's the All Japan Triple Crown champion, but freelances, has been seen wearing a US flag tuck shirt recently. I have had a couple of people suggest that to me. He was the one who worked with Charlie Dempsey when Regal's kid went over there at the beginning of the year. So there's some working relationship there. Could very well be him. Could very well be him. I know some people think it's Okada. I don't think it's Okada. Scorp's Abandonment. If you were the main GM for AEW, what is the first thing that you would change or do and why? If I was the GM for AEW, like storyline GM, I would keep Takeshita as far away from Chris Jericho as possible. I would mandate it. I would mandate it. I don't know. I mean, there's so many things you could matches that you could book. My gosh, I mean, as far as I'm trying to think, like, what would be the most pressing thing? Like, we're not talking about like local event promotions so they could try to sell more tickets and like business stuff like that we could talk about. I think if I were the GM, honestly, one of the first things I would do, I would not be booking 10 to 12 or 11 to 13 match pay-per-view cards that go 5 hours. That would be the first thing I change. Just speaking personally. I would tighten those cards up. They wouldn't go longer than 3.5 hours max. Their pay-per-views are quality, typically. Like, the action is great. There's a lot of great matches on those shows. They're too fucking long. They're exhausting. I think they're exhausting in some cities for the live crowd, but they're exhausting for me. So if I'm the GM, you're not getting 4.5 hour pay-per-views anymore. That's the first thing I do. The second thing I would do, all the Ring of Honor crap, the Ring of Honor 6-man titles, the Ring of Honor this, the Ring of Honor that. I don't want to see it on AEW television. I want them separate. In fact, you know what I would do if I was the general manager? I would have a conversation with Tony Khan, and not knowing all the details yet as to why Scott D'Amore was terminated by Anthem, if we hope and assume that there's nothing scandalous involved in why they let him go. I mean, in wrestling, you never fucking know, right? It seems like everybody's got some kind of skeleton in their closet. But if it was purely a business decision, he's going to be a very sought-after commodity. If I'm Tony Khan, I bring in Scott D'Amore. You know what I do? I let Scott D'Amore run Ring of Honor. Scott D'Amore was a very passionate supporter, cheerleader for TNA. I mean, you just saw him in the ring after the match that Will Ospreay and Josh Alexander had. He got in the ring, right? He came right back from Gorilla, had the headset on. He was like crying in the middle of the ring. He was screaming at the top of his lungs about TNA, and this is TNA, and the heart of TNA bleeds, and all this other stuff. He could be that for Ring of Honor. That way, Tony Khan doesn't have to worry about Ring of Honor anymore. He doesn't have to book Ring of Honor stuff on AEW television. Here, Scott, do what you did with TNA, do it with Ring of Honor. You got my full backing and my full resources. You can run it truly as a separate entity. I'm going to be over here focusing my efforts and my brain power on my brand. That's something I'd like to see. Barry MK400. I just saw WWE's results page from SmackDown say The Rock stepped up to Roman Reigns as Cody Rhodes refused to fight Reigns at WrestleMania. Is that how they have it written? The Rock stepped up to Roman Reigns as Cody Rhodes refused to fight Reigns at WrestleMania. What a geek. What a geek is Cody Rhodes. Ridiculous. Those fans better make their voices heard tomorrow. If they're as passionate as they are online, then I would expect to see them out in full force at that press event tomorrow. Bender McSimpson. Love the Hangman and Swerve match and the double turn. I don't mind the time limit draw, but I hate when time expires right before the 3. That's fair. I kind of feel the same way. You know, if you're going to do a finish like that, we've seen so many times. And I can say the same thing about Iron Man matches, where you'll have time is about to expire, and it comes down to the last 2 seconds. You know what? It's okay if it happens in the last 9 seconds. Doesn't have to be the very last second. Tonight, it was the very last second. You could have had Paul Turner drop down and count 1 and then rang the bell. It's a minor thing, but it kind of annoys me. So I think that's a fair point. Justin G, big business. It's official. Top Dollar is all elite. I thought Top Dollar was with TNA. Maybe that's why Anthem fired Scott D'Amore, because he brought in Top Dollar. Trill Mexican 305. Man, I'm having such a shitty night here at work. So glad I got Solomonster to listen to here. Truthfully, it doesn't matter what he's talking about. But just hearing his voice is helpful. Thank you. I'm glad that my voice can help lift your shitty night. I don't know why it's so shitty, but I'm glad you are with me here today. Chris Lloyd. AEW is about to have Julia Hart, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, Mercedes Moné, Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, Willow, Sheeta, and Deanna. They have talent. They just need better creative. You didn't even mention Toni Storm. She's the champion. How could you forget the champion? You named Julia Hart is the TBS champion, but you didn't name Toni Storm. Where's timeless Toni Storm on this list? That's kind of a big omission. For shame. For shame. Come on, Chris. Be calm, see clearly. Jon Moxley against Mick Foley in a last man standing Texas death match at Wembley Stadium. In my defense, he said he wants to go out with a bang. Yeah, but he also said it's for his 60th birthday. He doesn't turn 60 until next year, I thought. Yeah, if you don't know what that's all about, go check out the clip on the channel. I have a whole clip about Mick Foley and the ridiculous thing that he wants for his 60th birthday. Now, he's got a reason for it. There's a noble reason. But I cannot sit here and tell you that I would be excited to see Mick Foley in a death match at 60 years old. Joseph Brooks. Cherish, keep, borrow, sell on the 4 faces of Foley. Yes, I said 4. Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, and Mick Foley from TNA. Well, I'm going to sell on Mick Foley from TNA. I'm going to borrow Dude Love. I'm going to keep Cactus Jack, and I'm going to cherish Mankind. I've got a soft spot for Mankind. I like Mankind. I put Mankind over Cactus Jack. Dylan Hensley with the $10 super chat. Dylan, thank you. He said, plans changed last Saturday. I was taken out of the ring, out of the tag match I was going to be in, and put into the Battle Royal. My debut went well, but I wasn't put in a position to be showcased. Maybe next time. Well, that's a bummer, but your time will come. Yeah, I mean, Battle Royals are tough because unless you're going over, the focus is really never on one person. So it's tough. Plus, Battle Royals, I mean, obviously, I've never been in the ring. I know people who have been. I've heard other wrestlers say Battle Royals are tough. They're hard. So especially if you're inexperienced, you've never been in the ring before in a real match. Now you're in a Battle Royal. You got multiple people now, right? Got all these arms and legs moving around in there. It's a tough spot to be in. But Dylan, you will get your day. And you will have to let me know how it goes. Keep us all posted. Rizzo. I know I'm one of 6 of us who watch NXT, but did anyone else see the face in the NXT logo during the Ilya segment? Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. So, anybody in the chat want to chime in, feel free. I have... I mean, I'm barely paying attention to NXT at this point. Linklex, Rocky Sucks, and LOL TNA made a comeback in 2024. It's true. In the same week, we got Rocky Sucks and LOL TNA memes are back. It does feel like we're going backwards in some ways. Arabian Night, you think Hammerstone and Fatu are NXT bound? They will need to add to the roster once Mello, Braun, and Ilya are called up soon to work with Trick and Oba. That's right, Oba Femi. The North American champion. I think they would both be great pickups. I think, I know Booker T has said he's going to try to get Fatu in. He's going to try to be like an advocate for him. Booker is obviously directly connected to NXT because he works there. I think Fatu, if I had to place a guess on where I think Fatu ends up with no inside knowledge, I think he'll end up in WWE. I just feel like he's got a big support system there. His family members are there. His family members are basically running the fucking company at this point. I think he'll end up in WWE. Hammerstone, I don't know. It really depends on what kind of offer he's looking for and what they offer him. So Hammerstone I could see in WWE. I could also see him in AEW. The Real CS. They're going to do Rock and Roman, I fear. Trill Mexican says, have a bully here at work who's unprofessional, wanting to fight me because I'm not afraid of him, but I'm trying to be a professional and do my job. That's why it is a shitty night. All right, you got to let me know where this guy is, and all of us here in the chat, we're gonna go down there and put a beating on him. Who's ready for a beating at 12:20 a.m.? We'll go lay down the law. We'll go put this guy in his place. Just tell us the when and where. Larry Houston, WWE posted Dwayne arriving in Las Vegas today, and he said, signing off, long gamer. Interesting comment, especially now. And Jazz Jackrabbit, Rock at WrestleMania 40 main event would be like Sammartino coming back at WrestleMania 6 to take a young Warrior's place to wrestle Hulk Hogan. Also, Monday's Be the Booker was top tier. And Oz and Glorious, great Dynamite and stream as always. Will you be at Revolution? We should do a GWO meetup. I will not be at Revolution. We'll have to do a meetup at some point like that, but no, I will not be at Revolution. I will be here. Yeah, the end of the Be the Booker segment on Monday night was ridiculous. I feel like the only stipulation that we could have landed on for Hogan versus Hogan that could have been better than Buried Alive, if it were hair versus hair. But otherwise, Buried Alive was like the perfect stipulation for that match. So the goal was 400, and we are currently at 537 and counting. So let's get those likes up even more. Helps the video out. We've had a lot of new people who have discovered the channel, by the way, as busy as the last week has been. And it has been a very busy week. But a lot of people have found the channel through the clips that have popped up in the recommendeds bar. And one of the ways we get into the recommended bar is when you support the videos. So whether it is engagement via comment or super thanks or just hitting the like button, the reason I mention it is because it's not just a vanity thing. It actually helps the video out quite a bit and gets it out into the algorithm more. So I do appreciate all the support. And we did break the goal, so let's go ahead and be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
There he is, one half of the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. Reaching for the hot tag. The Stinger has gold again. When was the last time Sting was a champion? I mean, I guess he would have been. I don't know if he was like a tag champion in TNA. I know he was the world champion or NWA champion at some point. I know earlier in his time with TNA. But I don't remember the last time, the last year, that Sting held a title in wrestling. I'm not sure. Hey, Ricky, thank you, sir. It's very cool. Yeah, tell Issa I said thank you. I'm bummed that we missed each other. Like 2 ships in the night. We missed each other in Tampa for the Rumble. And I wasn't able to, there was one night I wasn't able to meet up. But we just missed each other at the Royal Rumble store. As I was going out, she was coming in. But shout out to Issa. NYC Demon Diva. All right, here we go. I'm going to get to your super chats. Don't worry. I know they're still coming in, but let's start this out here. I'll make you guys wait. Build up the suspense and the anticipation here. All right, Be the Booker Tag Team Edition, and we begin here with the Rockers. We just landed on them last week. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers, are kicking us off. Oh, there it is. There's the super chat. That was the contract signing that took place when Toni made it official with Mercedes. He can't help himself. Had to give her a big ol' hug. All right, the Rockers are going to be taking on the British Bulldogs. How about that? How about that? Now, the Rockers came in 88, right? Was it 88 or maybe the very end of 87? Probably was 88. So I'm not sure if they would have worked with the Bulldogs as the because I feel like as the Rockers were on their way in, the Bulldogs were on their way out. And they were both baby faces. So they probably didn't work each other there. They just missed each other. But that would have been a hell of a match. The Bulldogs against the Rockers back in the late 80s. Yes, I know I said Sting was TNA champion, but it was earlier in his run there. Like, when was the last time he held the TNA title? Because that would have been, I would think, the last time he held gold in wrestling. What other title would he have held? All right, Women's Be the Booker. We begin with Miss Jacqueline. Well, she worked a lot of different promotions, including WWE and WCW. Jackie was a tough one. You didn't want to mess with her. 2011. Okay, so Sting was the TNA World Champion in 2011. So it's been over a decade. It's going to be Miss Jackie against Julia. Now there's someone that will not be going to AEW. For all the people that Tony Khan may be signing, Julia is not going to be one of them. Julia is eventually going to be WWE bound, and she is going to be a superstar. She is going to make that company some money. And our main event. It all comes down to this. British Bulldogs versus the Rockers happened. The clip exists on YouTube. Well, I will have to check that clip out. I have no recollection of that happening, but I will go back and definitely check that. But here we go. Men's Be the Booker. We begin with the limitless one, Keith Lee, who is currently out injured again. All the best to Keith Lee. I haven't seen too many careers stall out the way that his unfortunately stalled out. I honestly, I mean, you could point to any number of things. Obviously, the guy almost died. That sort of had something to do with it. That probably had a lot to do with it. And he just has not been the same since. Keith Lee is going to be in our main event. He is one half. His opponent will be Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega and Keith Lee is a match that hopefully we will one day have the chance to see in AEW. When Keith Lee is healthy and when Kenny Omega is healthy, both of them are all fucked up right now. But when they're not fucked up and they're healthy, I would love to see that match. That would be a main event worth seeing. And that is a clean sweep here on Be the Booker. That's exactly what I like to see. I like to see 3 bells. Like it's Christmas. You hear the bells. Ding, ding, ding is what I like to hear in this Be the Booker segment. Oz and Glorious has a random question. He came back to wrestling in 2019, wondering why Matt Sydal is not more highly rated. Was he before every match I see him in rules? I think he's always been highly rated. He's never been featured as a major star. And I don't know if it's because of his size. I don't know. His promos are pretty pedestrian. I don't think there's anything, overly engaging about them. I don't know. He's never been featured, though, in WWE or in AEW as any sort of major star. The thing he's remembered most for, honestly, is taking an RKO from Randy Orton. I think that's probably his big claim to fame, but, he's a tremendous talent. I agree. He was underutilized in WWE. But, again, he just, he's always been a solid hand who can go in there. You can depend on him to go in there and have great matches, and also, I think, make his opponents look great. And so that's what he's utilized for. Arabian Knight says, surprised about Camille to AEW rumors. Another free agent. Wow. Well, I mean, she was supposedly offered an NXT contract, and she passed on it. And it looks like she may be headed to AEW. That's not official, but she's apparently leaning in that direction. Trill Mexican says, thank you, Solo and GWO. I love you all. Chris Manson, Solomonster, I'm so excited for Mercedes. I've been waiting since she left WWE. I feel like she is going to be on her Bryan Danielson run of having banger matches with fresh opponents. I hope so. She's a tremendous talent as long as she can stay healthy. Last year was going to be a big year for her, and then she got hurt. Hopefully she can pick up right where she left off, because she has just a whole smorgasbord of fresh faces to get in the ring with in AEW. People she's never worked with before. Some people she has. But a lot of those people she's never worked with before. And also, I think that by signing with AEW, she would still be open to working Japan and other places. So, again, what would have been her year in 2023 could be her year in 2024, where we see her maybe in multiple places. I'm looking forward to it, as long as I get to see her back on TV. I've missed seeing her. She is someone who I think will go out there and will prove a lot of people wrong who still don't get the hype, or they don't understand why people are such big fans of her. I mean, she's got a fan base that's very, very loyal and dedicated. But I've been a fan of her work since the NXT days, and she had tremendous matches with multiple people in WWE, whether it was Bayley, Becky, Charlotte, any number of people that she worked with in that company, Asuka, Kairi, and I think she will do the same in AEW. I think she's going to be out there to prove a lot of people wrong. I think she's going to have a chip on her shoulder, and I think as long as we don't start hearing, stories about backstage problems and disagreements and politics and drama, and, AEW certainly has had their issues with that before. If we could steer clear of that kind of stuff and she could kind of keep her head above water and just kind of go out there and just work with different people, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to it. Base Beerus says, buy or sell No Country for Old Men or Silence of the Lambs. Two fantastic movies. I'm a No Country for Old Men. I'm an Anton Sugar kind of guy. So I go No Country for Old Men, buy on that, and sell on Silence of the Lambs. And Base Beerus says, buy or sell Seth Rollins money or Tribal Chief money. Tribal Chief money. I will gladly take Tribal Chief money. Thank you very much. KG Black 24, do you think Mercedes will be a game changer for the division? Also, Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes at All In London. Yay or nay? It all depends on when Jamie is ready to come back. I thought she might be ready to come back as soon as this month, and I've heard nothing about her coming back. If the timing works out where she comes back closer to London, and if Toni Storm is still the champion by then, and again, there's a long time to go between now and then, and they're working this angle with Mariah May, where Mariah may be the one to take the title from her. But I'd love to see another Toni Storm Jamie Hayter match, and have Jamie win the belt back from her, maybe at Wembley. But if not, yeah, I think Jamie and Mercedes is a great match to do. I think that would be great. ABK has Tribal Chief money. ABK is the Tribal Chief. On these streams, he's the Tribal Chief. And you will acknowledge him. Do I think Mercedes is going to be a game changer? I hate using that terminology when it comes to AEW. No single person that has been hyped up by fans as a game changer is ever a game changer. Okada coming in, if he comes in, Okada is not going to change anything as far as all of a sudden the ratings are going to skyrocket, or all of a sudden their live event business and their ticket sales are going to turn around. There's no individual talent that I could see unless someone like Roman Reigns were to get bored and he left WWE to go to AEW, and you can stifle your laughter, I know. Failing some gigantic, unexpected name like that, there is no single individual who will come in and be a game changer. People said that about Paige when she came in, Saraya. Oh, she could be a game changer for the women's division. And Tony Khan didn't really change the way that he was booking the women on those shows, now did he? Just because Saraya came in. Saraya now she's just another face on the roster. Mercedes should not just end up as another face on the roster. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that she's going to be a game changer, though, because I don't think she's going to be. I do think that she is going to be a tremendous asset to that women's division. And over time, if Tony Khan were to book additional women's matches on the show instead of just the obligatory one that he likes to do on Dynamite every week, or just the way that he features the women in terms of some of the stories that have nothing to do with titles, some of the stories are very weak. Some of the stories are non-existent. It's all a matter of, is he going to change the way that he approaches how he books the women's division? That's up to Tony Khan. I don't know that her coming in alone is going to change any of that. All she can do is come in and just perform in the best way that she can and hope that she can help attract an audience of people to watch the product because she's on the show. I'm not going to tell you that that's going to change the game, though. I don't have any plans, but I'm open to it. I might, as far as doing a call-in show or having a show every now and then where we bring back the phone calls that we used to do. It's possible. Nothing on the agenda at the moment, but it's possible. I am leaving the door open for it. She will be a game changer as the women will have a main focus like Ronda Rousey for WWE in her first run. No, but that's what you say. I don't believe that until I see it. People have said that before about other women that Tony Khan has brought in. I mean, it's nice to say that, but until I actually see it with my own eyes. I mean, we've had women's matches that have headlined the occasional episode of Dynamite, Dynamite, Rampage. It's a very different story, though, when it comes to the pay-per-views and the bigger shows. You've got to get things to the point where, there's a reason to feature it in the main event. And if she can help be a catalyst for that kind of change, I think that would be great. I think that would make her signing, worthwhile for that alone. But I will not believe it until I see it with my own two eyes. Retro Gamer, hey, thank you for the $10, Retro. He says, with all the women on the roster and coming in, do you think Tony should make a new show just for them? AEW Heels show, maybe. I don't really think they need another show. I don't. I just think he needs to do a better job, certainly on Wednesdays. Once everybody is in, and you look at that women's roster, and it's filled with a lot of very talented people. The first thing to do is just do a better job of time management on these shows as far as trying to slot them in a little more often and get some new stories going. Once that happens, over a period of time, if that works, and if people are, they're into it, they're following the stories, and now it's to a point where, okay, we just don't have enough time to feature all of these women, right? He's demonstrated that he can feature them in a meaningful way. But then at some point, it's like, all right, we just don't have time for everybody. I might be open to that as an idea, but me personally, no, I don't think you need to just create a whole other show for it. And even if you wanted to, I mean, that there's no guarantee that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to want that. Unless you take Rampage and turn it into an all-women's show. There's a reason why they didn't want Ring of Honor on their networks. Otherwise, you could have turned Rampage into the Ring of Honor show. They didn't do that because that's not what Warner Brothers Discovery is paying them for. Are they even going to be on board with an all-women's show? Probably not. Alex, thank you for the 10 spot. Alex says, hey, brother, if WWE started collaborating with TNA and names like Roman and Cody made appearances, would you be making reviews on those certain TNA episodes? Of course. It's news. Absolutely. That would be a special attraction. Of course I would watch that. I would be interested. I would want to watch it. I would want to see it. And then I would review it. Absolutely. Yeah, Edge, Snow Dog, to piggyback on what we were talking about before, I heard the same thing. Some people said that about Edge. Oh my God, Edge is a huge name from WWE's, past, and a Hall of Famer. He's a legend, and maybe he's going to be a game changer. People throw these words around, without either knowing what they mean or just thinking that everybody who comes in is going to be a game changer. Even Adam Copeland just feels like another person on the roster right now. He's getting to work with his best friend. He's done some great stuff so far. The Cope Open, I've enjoyed it. That last match him and Christian had at the Nassau Coliseum was fantastic. If they wrestle again at Revolution, I'm sure it'll be fantastic there too. But even someone like Adam Copeland just kind of feels like another name in the crowd. What makes you think that Mercedes is not going to end up being the exact same way? It's up to Tony Khan to prove me wrong, prove people wrong. Feature her in a way, and Okada too for that matter. It doesn't have to be on TV every week, but feature them in a way that, keeps them feeling special. Like they are an attraction, and they're not just another person on the show. He's investing so much in so many that I feel like you could take a few of these big names and you can utilize them in a way that's different than the John Moxleys and the Bryan Danielsons of the world. Because you have enough big names already on that roster. You could take 2 or 3 of these people and only have them working certain shows. And really, I hate to say Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns works so little. I'm not saying give them the Roman Reigns schedule, but take a handful of these people, 1 guy and 1 girl maybe, and just book them in a way where when they show up, it feels like a happening. It feels like, oh, I have to tune in because Mercedes is going to be on the show, or Okada is coming on the show tonight. They have enough talent on the roster where you could do that with a few people. Oz and Glory is hoping to see Stephanie Vaquer in AEW with the CMLL partnership now in full swing. Did you see her match with Mercedes? Incredible. I don't know if I saw that match or not. I've seen some of Stephanie's work, though. She's very good. Oz also says AEW feels a lot better when the champions are strapped for reasons bigger than trying to keep them happy / away from WWE, such as MJF, Jade, etc. I'm just glad that we don't have to sit here and listen to, the bidding war of 2024, which I just think it's better that you don't even acknowledge WWE. It's nice to get away from that for a while. And they seemingly dropped that story even before MJF went away. But I was a little worried that it was going to kind of dominate and take over the TV show, so I'm glad that it's not. Is Shane McMahon ever coming back? Probably not, no. And honestly, I have no interest in seeing him back anyway. And KGB, seems to be a terrible year to be a head booker of a wrestling company. If Hunter was booted from his position, who do you think would replace him? Well, ask yourself this question. Brian Gewirtz was the head writer for a number of years, and he's back now because The Rock is back. So he's only back to be around for The Rock's creative. But if I'm Triple H, I'm a little hot under the collar. I'm a little worried. Got eyes in the back of my head. By the way, you're talking about it's a terrible year to be a head booker for a promotion. Should I be worried here? I mean, I am the head booker for Be the Booker here on this channel. Should I be worried that my job is in jeopardy? Am I next? I hadn't thought about that. Maybe I need to be worried. Maybe I'm next on the chopping block. Well, tomorrow is the press conference. And as I said, I will be watching it and monitoring it to see what happens, what they make official for WrestleMania, if there is any kind of major announcement. Depending on what happens, you may see me on here tomorrow night. So just keep that in mind. Friday night, for sure, I'll be here after SmackDown. We'll talk about the show on Friday night. And if I don't show up tomorrow night, then I'm sure whatever happens, I'll talk about it on Friday. If you missed episode 847 this week, thank you, by the way, for getting us back into the top 10 on Apple Podcasts in all of the United States for the top wrestling podcasts in the country. We were up at number 8 this week, and I appreciate your support there. So go back and check out episode 847 if you missed it. And if you missed the Raw review on Monday night, over 30,000 views. It was a big show. We had a very spirited, I was going to say discussion, but spirited, I think, is a good word for it. And a very interesting edition of Be the Booker as well. A lot of content on the channel, so go check it all out. I'll leave you with this. I wanted to show you this just because it makes me happy. Every now and then I go on Etsy. Etsy has some incredible stuff. I mean, you find some amazing things on there. And there are things that people are 3D printing. Just stuff that you can't just go out in a store or on Amazon and buy. And one of my favorite things that I found, and it's such a minor, stupid thing, but it makes me happy, is right here. These are magnets on my refrigerator. These are individual magnets from Super Mario Brothers. And this is the scene that I created myself. Each individual magnet, each individual block I made sure I got a lot of the key players. There you see right there, Bullet Bill. There's Bullet Bill. And the Koopa Troopa. There's Luigi and Mario and the Goomba. I had a lot of fun putting this together. Every time I go to get a snack out of the fridge, I get to look at my Super Mario scene here. So I figured I would share my artwork. I'm like, this is like my Bob Ross creation right here. I wanted to share this with all of you. There you go. They're pretty good quality, too, I have to say. So, anyway. What do I do in my spare time? My spare time, now you know. Now you know how I kill time. All right, I'll see you guys either tomorrow or on Friday night. Bring it right back here. Bring your super chats. Bring your thumbs. Hit the like button on the way out. And we'll do it all over again later this week. Thank you for the love. I'll see you guys very soon. Take care.